We're moments away from the start of Syracuse and Vermont over on ACC Network Extra. We're back on the Cuse.com pregame show with Jaron May. I'm Corey Spector. We've got great head coaches in this game. We talked about Chris Fife for Vermont. Hey, we can't ignore John Desko in year 23 for Syracuse, the active winningest coach in Division I lacrosse.
Also, a newly minted Hall of Famer. He has all the accolades, he has all the stats, he has everything you need to know, and he proved that this year because after that disappointing loss to Army, he put together a strong game plan against a very talented Virginia team, and that just shows you how smart of a coach he is.
When he was inducted to the Hall of Fame back in May, he said he was embarrassed. Could you imagine him being embarrassed when making the Hall of Fame?
I would take some pride in that, but that's kind of who Coach Desko is. He likes to be a team-first guy, and he's put together a lot of talented rosters.
Well, Syracuse is going to need the tutelage of John Desko for this season and beyond. And the Orange's schedule, let's not sugarcoat it, it's always difficult. But 7 of the final 9 games after today against Vermont, they're all ranked opponents. And by the way, Stony Brook coming up is receiving votes.
Right, and it's because it's the ACC, and you have so many talented players and teams in the ACC. This year especially, it might be the most stacked ACC that they have ever gone up against, and then your non-conference are not easy. So this is a way to work out the kinks, get off the rust, and figure out some momentum going into those ranked opponents.
One of the other keys for Syracuse as they progress this season is the play of face-off man Jacob Fopp. And in that game against Virginia, he put Petey LaSalla, one of the best face-off guys in the entire country, he spun him around. 22 of 33 on the face-offs for Jacob Fopp, and he is a problem for Vermont to contend with today.
Yeah, LaSalla going into the game against Syracuse, 73% winning percentage. And now you look at the other side, and it's Jacob Fopp, and Coach Desko has talked about why he's doing so well this season is because the rule change. You're not allowed to have that motorcycle grip anymore. It's an underhand grip. You're standing up. And he has figured out those new rules quicker than everyone else in the country.
Watch out for number 3 for Vermont today, Tommy Burke. He's the face-off guy that's going against Jacob Fopp, who, by the way, was named the ACC Defensive Player of the Week. So Syracuse has a great face-off man in Jacob Fopp, and Vermont is going to be challenged with dealing with Jacob Fopp today. That'll wrap it up for the Cuse.com pregame show. Make sure you switch over to ACC Network Extra on your laptop, tablet, or mobile device for the call with Cooper Boardman and Ryan Pavel. We'll be back on ACC Network Extra for halftime coverage. It's a 10-7 lead for Syracuse, the number 6 team in the country at halftime against the Vermont Catamounts out of the America East. Welcome back inside our Newhouse studios on the campus of Syracuse University. Corey Spector here with Jaron May. And Jaron, prior to the break, we talked about how good the offenses have been of both sides. They've been really good, but without these goalies, they might be scoring even more often.
Yeah, on both sides. Drake Porter has been fantastic, 10 saves for him, and then Ryan Cornell, 7 saves for him at the halftime break. Cornell is getting it a little easier because some of those missed shots from Syracuse have just been right on his body. It's been Porter that's been a little more impressive. He's going up, he's going down. He's been pretty darn solid in this first half, and that's why Syracuse has a 3-goal lead.
Let's get you those halftime highlights of the opening 30 minutes inside the Carrier Dome. And Syracuse got off to an early 2-0 lead. How about Stephen Rafis creating from X? That's something we haven't seen in previous years on his own.
This is a beautiful pass behind the back. The offense, if you're a defender, what do you do?
Rafe is coming from behind the cage. He gets it done there. Syracuse with ground ball efforts as well. Look at this one. You ever do the robot when you were at the dance club?
Yeah, that is exactly what it looks like. That was just filthy.
Liam Limoges also a star for Vermont in that first half with 3 goals. And a lot of these Catamounts guys, they can rip it from the outside.
That was the difference. Syracuse was trying to get to the inside a little more. The Catamounts were on the outside and just ripping shots on Porter. And it's tough. I mean, when the ball's coming this quickly at you, you can't ask much more from Drake Porter. Or if it's a one-on-one opportunity on the doorstep, that's tough to stop too.
The face-off differential, so crucial for Vermont to stay in this contest, leading by 5 in that department. And the Catamounts, because they've won more face-offs, Jaron, are able to get more shots.
Yeah, lacrosse is a game about possession. It's not like football. It's not like basketball where you're guaranteed a possession after the other team scores. You got to win the face-off, and that's what makes it so interesting. Those face-off guys have so much pressure riding on their shoulders.
Ryan Cornell for Vermont, he's made a lot of good saves in net front situations on the Syracuse attack. And then on the Orange side, Drake Porter as well has stood tall in Syracuse's cage against some of those missiles for Vermont.
Both guys are doing exactly what they are supposed to do. And when you look at Cornell, again, he's just been able to absorb some shots. Syracuse has had plenty of good looks, but that's not that tough. And this one is going to get put right on his body as well. So he's matching where the shots are going before they even release from the stick.
Drake Porter, who some might argue is the best goalie in the ACC, maybe the entire country. He's led the conference in the past 2 seasons in save percentage, and he does a really nice job in the Syracuse cage to limit Vermont's attack. Again, they lead the shots department, but only 7 goals on the score sheet, and that's how Syracuse has a 10-7 lead at the end of the first half. Jaron, second half adjustments in order for Vermont to stay in this game.
You got to be able to just to continue and finish your shots. You're getting some great looks. The cutters are happening. You want to get a little more ball movement, get that Syracuse defense moving a little quicker, find some open shots, and then you just got to finish, Corey.
One quick thing that I was really impressed in the first half, didn't really show up on the score sheet, and it happened against Virginia, Jaron. Tucker Dordevik's ability with his right or his left, it is special.
That spin dodge, Corey. We were watching the game, and that first goal from him, he just put the spin move on. His defender was completely lost. It's tough because you can't guard him too much left. He's going to spin off right. You can't guard him too much right. He's going to spin off left.
30 minutes down between Syracuse and Vermont. The Orange and the Catamounts both looking to improve to 2-1 on the young season. And for now, we're going to go back inside the Carrier Dome. It's an exciting second half on the way. Vermont has hung tough. Syracuse looks to pull away against the Catamounts. And we'll go back inside the Loud House with Ryan Powell. Here's Cooper Boardman for the second half. Guys? Cuse fans, wipe the sweat off your forehead. Syracuse survives against Vermont, 17-13 over the Catamounts. An exciting game today inside the Carrier Dome. The first time with fans since last March, 900 of them. And Syracuse makes those fans go back home very happy. Alongside Jaron May, I'm Corey Spector. Welcome to the Cuse.com postgame show. Jared, Vermont kept it close, but Syracuse with a great focus, especially down the stretch.
And you got to give a lot of credit to Drake Porter and the defense. The Catamounts got some momentum in that second half. They were inching their way back in it. It all started at the face-off X, but the defense for Syracuse stood strong, and Drake Porter had a career day.
Career high, 20 saves for Drake Porter. We'll get to him in just a little bit. But the Syracuse attack again flexes its muscles against a Vermont team that was very pesky on the ride and on several opportunities for Syracuse towards the nets.
Yeah, the defense for the Catamounts was great, and Syracuse just did enough that it needed to do to be able to pull out the victory. That first half was a little smoother for the Orange. In the second half, the defense started to pick up, and they had some more difficulties, but ultimately, there's just way too much talent on that Syracuse roster for them to drop to Vermont.
So Syracuse comes back from that terrible loss against Army, forfeiting a 6-1 lead in that game. They beat Virginia, the #2 team in the land, challenged by Vermont early on because of the face-off winning by the Catamounts.
Yeah, it was a big reason why, and that's the whole thing about lacrosse. If you can have possession, you're gonna be able to fight in this game. The Syracuse defense shut down Vermont enough, and then on the offensive end, too many weapons for Syracuse, and it was an aggressive, chippy game towards that second half.
Yeah, this was physical. Both teams getting into it. They scrimmaged each other. How about this one right here? Wilson Sneed for Vermont takes exception at the end of the third quarter when Brendan Curry takes a shot on the outside after the buzzer sounds. But regardless, Syracuse pulls away. Vermont with the edge in shots, 51-32. But in the end, Drake Porter stands tall in net, despite Vermont being the more aggressive team on the ground balls as well.
Porter was fantastic. He did what he had to do. The key for him was that Vermont was taking a lot of outside shots. So when you do that, you give the goalie an extra split second to be able to read where the ball is and to get his stick or his body or whatever it needs to be in that area. So if you're an outside shooter and you give Drake Porter that split second extra, he's going to make those saves 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, and bear in mind, those shots came in with a lot of heat on them. And Drake Porter, we mentioned, tied his career high with 18, eclipsed it with 20. He had that 18 against Army a couple of years ago. But time and time again, Cooper mentioned this on the broadcast, Canadian against the Canadian several times, but Drake Porter in the crease doing what he does best.
Corey, big-time players step up in big-time moments in big-time games. Now, this Vermont game might not have been the biggest. It's not an ACC game, but Drake Porter stepped up when Vermont started to get some momentum and they started to inch their way back in this one. He was the reason why ultimately the Catamounts weren't able to tie it back up and didn't make it a game at the end.
Offensively for Syracuse, it's hard not to be impressed with basically every single person that's on the squad right now, but one player in particular who does a really good job initiating the offense for Syracuse at that X position, Stephen Rafis, who had a very, very proficient day from that spot.
Rafis is the quarterback of this team, and what he was doing is he became a scorer last game against Virginia. And if you're a defense, you have to think, all right, if he's going to be a weapon scoring the ball, I now have to get closer to him, play a little tighter defense, and when that happens, that means other players are going to become available, and he has the passing skills to be able to find those open players. So becoming a scoring threat ultimately helps out his passing.
3 goals last week, 2 goals this week, but he grabs the 6 assists against the Catamounts. And one of the beneficiaries of that feeding from Stephen Rafis, Owen Hiltz, who has 7 goals, the freshman, 7 goals in his past 2 games.
4 goals in just today's game. What Hiltz does so well is he finds the soft spots in the zone. It's just like basketball. Against that 2-3 zone for Syracuse men's basketball, you want to be at the high post. Well, with Hiltz, he just waits along these hashes and then turns and fires. If he has a good feeder, like he does with Stephen Rafis, and he just sits along the hashes 7 to 10 yards from cage, he can catch, and those passes are right on where he needs to be, where he can finish it with a one-time.
Hiltz has that Canadian box lacrosse background, and it showed today with his quick stick movement, finding the back of the net. All right, that takes care of Owen Hiltz. We're going to take a break here on the Cuse.com postgame show. When we come back, we'll preview Syracuse's next couple of opponents and go around the country with some scores.